Welcome. This is the first video in our course on teams. So in this video, we need to define our basic term and answer the question, what is a team? There are a lot of definitions of a team, so I'll start by sharing mine. A team is a small number of people who collaborate to achieve a shared goal. The keys to this definition are three things. Firstly, a small number of people. Secondly, collaboration. And third, the shared goal. Let's look at them one at a time. We'll start with a small number of people. What do we mean by small? Well, I guess it's like a piece of string. There's no answer to the question how long it is, but I think we can get an intuitive grasp by looking at the kind of teams we're familiar with. Sports teams, service teams, organisational teams. They typically run up from anything like 2, 3 or 4 people to perhaps a maximum of around about 20. The smallest teams are probably teams of 3 or 4. In sport, there are lots of examples of teams of 4, and the same is true in military units, that the smallest common team is a team of 4, the fire team in many different special operations units. At the top end, we see sports teams of 13, 14, 15, and even in American football, with which I'm not very familiar, the field team is not huge, even if the whole team is a very large team. Even in politics, if we look at cabinet government and the executive of a lot of democratic states, we find that once you get close to 20, we reach a limit. So a small number of people is typically anything from 4 to 20 people. The next term to look at is collaboration, and this is all about the group of people working together in a way that is interdependent. If I can assign a task to the first person, another task to the second, and a third task to another person, and they can go off and do those tasks on their own, they're not a team. But as soon as they have to collaborate and work together, that brings them into a more of a team structure. And finally, there's the idea of a shared goal. If the team shares an aspiration or a goal or a set of objectives, then it needs to share that commitment to achieving them. And that also means that the team members need to hold one another accountable for their contributions towards that shared goal. Therefore, if you take a small number of people, you ask them to achieve something together to which they are all committed and which requires cooperation and collaboration and interdependent working, then you will forge a team. Now we've defined what a team is, we also need to answer the question, how does a team differ from a group? Because in some of the videos in this course, we're going to look at how you take a group of people and move them towards being a team. I'm going to pick on 5 characteristics which I think particularly distinguish a team from a group. There are plenty of others, and in the exercise below, I'd like you to think about what other characteristics you think are relevant in distinguishing a group from a team. The first thing is that team members often have complementary skill sets, experiences that differ, so that when the team comes together, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. The buzzword that you'll often hear for this is synergy. Synergy is when we bring people or parts together and what we get is greater than the sum of those parts individually. And this comes about through the collaboration of people with different experiences, skills, capabilities to contribute. The second characteristic that distinguishes a team from a group is the degree of mutual support. Team members will help one another through the difficult times and they will provide care and collaboration and a supportive environment for one another. But the price of this, of course, is that they will also hold one another accountable for their contributions to the team and therefore the work that they do to take the team towards achieving its goal. My third distinguishing characteristic is what psychologists call norms of behaviour. A group has no internal unwritten rules except those it gets from outside the group. But as the group develops into a team, it develops its own norms of behaviour. Standards that team members expect of one another. These can relate to all sorts of things, from the way we support one another, the way we question one another, our communication styles, our habits and our rituals. Teams develop these unwritten implicit rules, and by and large team members follow those rules without ever questioning them or feeling that they are inappropriate because they come about from a consensus within the team. Fourth, and this isn't always true, but by and large groups need conspicuous leadership. They need someone to stand at the front of the group and tell it what it needs to do and how it needs to do it. Teams are far less reliant on overt leadership. What this means is that individuals within the team can take leadership roles as the team's agenda migrates from one thing to another. Different people will step up and take the lead. It is quite possible, particularly for a small team, for there not to be a designated leader, but for the team to collaborate so well that it doesn't need that leadership. Clearly, as a team gets larger, it does help to have someone appointed to arbitrate and to provide direction and support and guidance. But fundamentally, a group must have a leader. A team doesn't necessarily need one. And finally, I'd like to emphasize the role of trust. A group of people may or may not trust one another, and the trust they may have may be deep, but is more likely to be shallow. Whereas a team will trust one another, and the level of that trust will deepen with time to a point where people can feel reliant upon their collaborators without feeling concerned that they will be let down. In the description below, I'll provide a link to a simple diagnostic tool you can use to assess the extent to which your team is really a team or simply a group of people who happen to be working in the same place at the same time. In the first section of this course, we'll spend a lot of time looking at how a group evolves to become a team, and in particular, what you as the team leader can do to accelerate and support that process. We'll look at a number of models, and we will understand what has to happen at the different stages. But for now, know that a team is a small group of people who collaborate with one another to achieve a shared goal. Please give us a thumbs up if you like this video. There's loads more great management courses content to come, so please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you don't miss any of it. I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video, and in the meantime, keep learning.